What do you think happens when a queen, on the day of her royal wedding, turns her eyes away from the poor, refusing even to look at their suffering? What happens to a rich man who mocks the starving and says, "Let them eat grass"? What becomes of a ruler who builds a trap to drown his enemy? Or a man who pours poison meant for someone else? What fate meets a king who once helped plan a massacre within the very walls where he himself would later be stabbed? These are not just stories. These are echoes of a truth we all forget. What you sow, you will reap. And when that harvest comes, it comes back greater, sharper, and without mercy. Life has a strange way of returning to us what we give to others. Whether it's love or hate, kindness or cruelty, everything we plant grows back. Sometimes not today, not tomorrow, but it comes in the pages of history and in the quiet corners of our own lives. We see this law play out again and again. You reap what you sow. Let me share with you a short story from long ago. There was a wise man named Lockman. One day, his master gave him a task to go and plant oats in a field in Arabia. Lockman did as he was told. But after some time, when the crops started to grow, the master came to inspect the field. And to his surprise, he saw that it was barley, not oats, growing there. The master was upset and confused. He asked Lockman, "Why did you plant barley when I clearly told you to plant oats?" Lockman calmly replied, "I did plant barley, but I was hoping and praying that somehow I might see a harvest of oats." The master was shocked and angry. "How could you be so foolish about something so important?" he shouted. But Lockman looked at him and said something very wise. He said, "Sir, every day I see you planting seeds of evil in this world, yet you still expect to reap the fruits of goodness on the day of judgment. So I thought, maybe I too could get a harvest of oats from barley." This story holds a powerful truth. As the Apostle Paul once said, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatever a man plants, that is what he will also harvest." This law is the same, whether in the physical world or the spiritual one. If you plant wheat, you get wheat. If you plant hate, you get hate. If you plant love, kindness, and truth, that's what will come back to you. Your harvest always matches your seed. When we plant oats, we expect to harvest oats. When we plant wheat, we expect to harvest wheat. That's just how nature works. And what's amazing is, we always get more than we plant. From just one seed, we might grow a dozen. Some plants can give us hundreds of grains from a single seed. And weeds? They can spread even faster. One weed can create 1,000 more. This law, the law of sowing and reaping, doesn't just apply to farming. It applies to our thoughts too. Whatever we think is like a seed planted in the mind. And just like in nature, we don't just get one result. We get many thoughts of the same kind in return. Think one negative thought, and it can lead to a storm of more. But the same is true for peace, love, and joy. What you plant in your mind grows in your life. The way we think, our mental conduct, has a powerful effect on our body. When we think negative, harmful, or anxious thoughts, our subconscious mind reacts. It starts producing harmful chemicals in the blood, quietly, silently, but powerfully. Just one toxic thought can create thousands of drops of poisoned blood. And if that one thought is planted deep in the subconscious, it doesn't stop there. The body begins to feel the weight of it. Not just once, but again and again. You don't just reap that single thought. You reap many more like it. Emotionally, mentally, and even physically. But the effects of a thought don't just stop with your own body or your own mind. You might think, "It's just in me. It's only my problem." But no, every thought you plant in your subconscious, especially the negative ones like fear, hate, jealousy, or resentment, doesn't stay inside. It leaves your mind and spreads. Like a seed carried by the wind, it settles into the world around you, into the universal mind, the shared energy of all of us. And once it gets there, it starts to grow. It doesn't just grow by itself, it attracts more of the same kind. A bitter thought grows more bitterness. A loving thought multiplies into more love. That's the truth. Your inner world is connected to the outer world. What you plant inside doesn't stay inside. It becomes part of the bigger harvest, and one day, it comes back to you, multiplied. You know, it really doesn't matter whether someone has actually wronged us or not. If we hold on to hate, we're the ones who get hurt. That's the thing about hate. We think it punishes the other person, but really, it poisons us. When we carry feelings like anger, bitterness, or resentment, it's like planting toxic seeds inside our own body. And over time, those seeds grow into stress, sickness, and emotional pain. But it doesn't just stay inside us either. That negative energy spreads into the world, into others, into what some people call the universal mind. And just like planting any seed, eventually, that crop comes back. And when it does, it's not just one small return, it multiplies. What we put out, even in thought, comes back to us. Always. And the same rule applies when we plant good thoughts. If you fill your mind with love, if you think about kindness, friendship, joy, peace, happiness, abundance, all the beautiful things in life, then that's what you'll start to experience more of. Just like before, what you plant, you harvest. Whatever kind of seeds you sow, those are the fruits that will grow in your life. So if you want a life full of peace and blessings, start by planting peaceful, loving thoughts in your mind today. You know, the old scripture says something very true. Don't be fooled. God is not mocked. Whatever a person plants, that's what they're going to harvest. And honestly, that's not just a religious saying, it's real life. Think about it. When a farmer plants wheat, he doesn't expect to get rice. When you plant one kind of seed, you get that same kind of crop. That's how nature works. But here's the thing, it's the same with our thoughts. If you keep planting thoughts of anger, jealousy, or hate, that's what you'll grow more of. You'll feel it, you'll see it in your life, and it'll come back to you, sometimes even stronger. But when you plant love, when you give out kindness, understanding, and peace, that's what grows around you. And you don't just get a little bit of it, you get it multiplied. That's the harvest. That's the law of life. What you put out there always comes back. You know, the great master wasn't just speaking poetry when he said, "Love your enemies, love those who mistreat you, and forgive, not just once, but 70 times 7. He meant every word, because he understood how the human heart works. He knew that when we hold on to anger, when we keep replaying the past, those old hurts, those bitter memories, they don't just stay in our minds. They start affecting our bodies too. Every time we relive a painful moment, every time we nurse a wound, whether it really happened or we just imagined it, we plant a seed. And that seed grows into stress, into sadness, into sickness. That's why so many people aren't truly well. Not because of what they eat, but because of what they're still holding on to deep inside. See, your mind doesn't just think. It builds. It builds your body. It even shapes your blood. And whether you believe it or not, there's a divine intelligence inside you, a kind of inner chemist that reacts to every thought you send it. So if you fill your mind with love, peace, and forgiveness, your whole body responds. But if you fill it with hate, regret, or resentment, it starts to break down. That's why forgiveness isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's medicine for your mind, your heart, and your health. You know, life has a way of giving back what we send out. When Marie Antoinette was getting married, she rode through the streets of Paris. But she couldn't stand the sight of poor people, beggars, the crippled, the ragged. So she ordered the soldiers, "Clear them out. I don't want to see them." She couldn't bear even a moment of their pain. But 20 years later, she herself was riding through those same streets, not in a royal carriage, but in an executioner's cart, on her way to die. And this time, she was surrounded by people whose hearts were cold as ice and hard as stone. What she gave, she received. There was a rich man named Foulon. One day, when people were starving, someone asked him, how are they supposed to survive? He coldly replied, "Let them eat grass." But time has a way of returning what we give. Later, when the people rose in anger, they found him in the streets of Paris. They hanged him, stuck his head on a pike, and stuffed his mouth with grass. The same words he once spoke came back to him with fury. What kings and princes give, they receive. Just take a moment and look at history. You'll see this law: you reap what you sow, playing out again and again. Maxentine tried to drown his enemy, Constantine, by building a fake bridge. But in the end, he was the one who drowned. Bajazet made an iron cage to imprison Tamerlane. But guess what? Bajazet ended up locked inside that same cage, carried around like a prisoner. Maximinus blinded thousands of innocent Christians. Not long after, a terrible disease spread through his people, starting with his own eyes. He died in horrible pain. Valens. He ordered 80 Christians to be burned alive at sea. Later, when he was defeated by the Goths, he ran and hid in a cottage. And there, he was burned alive. Alexander VI planned to poison someone with wine, but that same poisoned wine ended up killing him instead. And Henry III of France? He was stabbed to death in the same room where he once helped plan the massacre of thousands of Protestants. Coincidence? Or a law of life? You see, when you send out harm, it doesn't just disappear. It circles back, and it finds its way home. Do you know what happened to the Romanov family? The Tsar, along with his wife and children, they were all shot by the Bolsheviks. It was the first time his own innocent children were killed like that. But sadly, it wasn't the first time it happened, not in his kingdom. Because during his reign, thousands of Jewish families went through the same pain. Their doors were broken down. Grandparents, small children, butchered in cold blood just for being who they were. And the Tsar? He never lifted a finger to stop it. He stayed silent. And I wonder, when they came for him, when the soldiers kicked open the doors to his house, did he remember? Did he realize he was now living what others had lived under his rule? The old saying is true: they that live by the sword shall perish by the sword. But people in power, they forget that. Until it's too late. My friend, don't wait until life teaches you the hard way. Look at your thoughts, your words, your actions. What are you planting today? Because whatever it is, it's coming back to you. Sow peace, and you'll live in peace. Sow love, and love will find its way back to you. Be the reason someone heals, not the reason they hurt. And always remember, no matter your past, you can plant something better today. You can begin again, right now.